Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Stephanie if you're new here, and today we're going to do my February wrap-up and talk about everything I've read, crafted, or produced in February. The first book I finished in February was The People's Library by Veronica G. Henry. This was an Amazon Prime first pick and was also written by a BIPOC author. And the story follows Echo London, a librarian in a standard paper book library in Cleveland, Ohio, when the library is suddenly closed and Echo is recruited to be the curator of the People's Library, which houses a digital center for human consciousness. But there are secrets to the library's origin, and Echo is swept up in the battle for the fate of humanity. There were some interesting themes, some thought-provoking ideas. For example, in the library, you can check out, essentially, a hologram of a historical figure and have a conversation with them. So you can answer that age-old question, like, who would I have dinner with, dead or alive? So the basis of the story was interesting, but the actual storytelling really fell a bit flat for me. There's a romance arc, which didn't make much sense. Echo seems to do everything in her power to push people away from her, which becomes very repetitive and annoying. She has this constant battle with herself within her own head. To be fair, I was also reading another book about human consciousness at the same time, coincidentally, and so I may have just been overloaded by the subject matter of this sort of dystopian, who can be in our brain, what is consciousness. So I ended up giving The People's Library 2.5 stars. Not terrible, not unforgettable, just fine. The next book was 3 books, The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon by Beth Brower, volumes 2, 3, and 4. If you saw my January wrap-up, this will be no surprise. I love this series and I will be continuing it. As a quick synopsis, the story is told through the private journals of Emma M. Lyon. She's a young woman who was returned to her family house in London she inherited, and kind of a lot of quirky things happen. She lives with her cousin and 2 servants, and it sort of follows her and her interactions with the people that live in this tiny little neighborhood within London called St. Crispin's. It's fantastic. Emma's voice is really what makes the series. She's witty, she's observant, dramatic, but in a very real and authentic way. So I gave The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, volumes 2, 3, and 4, between 5.75 and 5 stars. Next was Secret of Secrets by Dan Brown. This I did as a buddy read. This is a continuation of the Robert Langdon series that Dan Brown has been writing over the last several years. This one takes place in Prague. And here's the thing. Dan Brown knows how to write a fast-paced thriller. And that's what this was, as per usual. The historical context and his detailed, vivid descriptions of the architecture and the city, and then pulling in the historical context of it, fantastic. And this is what always draws me back. However, I prefer when themes unfold naturally throughout the story. And it just felt very heavy-handed, felt like some things were really just being shoved down your throat. And so I kind of just disengaged. That's where I'll leave it. This is probably going to be my last Dan Brown book, and I gave The Secret of Secrets 2.5 stars. Next, we had The Blueprint by Giana Rashad. This was our February fiction book pick for the Anti-Brain Rot Reading Challenge hosted by Giana of This Story Ain't Over, which I'll link below. It's a dystopian speculative novel set in an alternative United States where a second civil war has led to this authoritarian rule known as the Order. And in this society, choice is tightly controlled by algorithms. And specifically, these algorithms assign Black women, or what they refer to as descendants of slavery, assigns their occupations, their spouses, their residencies, stripping them of any autonomy that they might have had. So the story follows one of the women living under this system, but it's also a dual timeline story between Solène and her ancestor Henriette, who lived prior to the Civil Wars in the regime of slavery, and sort of parallels their journeys together through time. This was a debut novel, and that shocked me because the writing was confident, it was intentional. There's lyrical elements, but not in a way that slows down the pacing or makes it feel redundant in any way. Really, really good story. So I give The Blueprint by Giana Rashad 4.5 stars. And my last book of the month was The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. So this story centers on Le Cirque des Rêves, a mysterious black and white circus that appears without warning in a town. No one knows where it's coming and is only open at night. And ultimately, you learn that the circus is really just a magical kind of battleground for two competitors and their puppet masters of sorts. So this book has very high ratings, very good reviews, and I think where I went wrong for myself was I listened to this on audiobook. And I am notorious for not paying as much attention as I'm sure maybe many of us are to books when I listen to them on audio. And I think this is a story where every word you really do need to pay attention to be immersed within the environment. And I think that's where I missed the mark. The story also jumps around in timelines and time and places in time. So I think I would like to go back one day and read this, as I do think it is a story that I would enjoy. It's highly character driven, which I prefer. So I think that's going to be on me to go back and reread at some point. But currently, based on the audiobook, I gave The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern 3.75 stars. So that was it for February. Overall, there were 7 books total, 2,351 pages, and 13 hours of listening. I read 100% fiction this month, and my most read genre, again, was historical fiction. And I gave an average rating of 4 stars. So let me know what your best book of February was, and if you've read any of these, I would love to know what your opinions down in the comments. Coming up in March, this is what I have going for you here. Still working on The Valley of the Horses by Jane M. Owl, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to finish this in March. And then a few others from some different genres and some different book clubs. So if you're interested to know what my thoughts are on these books, I'll see you in a March wrap-up. Next for February crafting. So this was a little less successful. I really didn't prioritize any crafting this month. So that is something I've taken note of, and I'm going to move forward and do so in March. So if you're interested in seeing any of my craft projects, please stop by any of my lives and see what we're working on together. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you have, and I'll see you in the March wrap-up. Bye.